Welcome to Season 2 of the Shooters Only podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Cadiz, alongside co-hosts
Darren Jung
and
Garrick Garcia.
We'll bring you the latest NBA news and hottest basketball takes every single week. Fantasy sports, NFL, the MLB, we'll sprinkle that in for you too. No matter the sport, we have the data to back up our opinions. And like my boy Klay Thompson says,
shooters keep shooting.
Hope you enjoy the episode. In this episode of the Shooters Only podcast, we discuss James Harden and Kevin Durant's first 2 games together. How does Kyrie coming back affect them? Damian Lillard taking the throne in Portland with McCollum and Nurkic being out. How does Miles Turner's injury affect the surging Indiana Pacers and Karis LeVert's kidney scare, as well as Kevin Porter Jr.'s outburst, and which NBA teams are contenders or pretenders. We discuss the legacy of Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees, as well as give our AFC and NFC championship picks of the week. What a great day for Shooters Only Podcast Season 2, Episode 3. Brandon Cadiz here alongside Darren Jung and our social media legend, Garrick Garcia. Make sure to follow us on Shooters Only Podcast because Garrick is putting out fire content every single day. Drop that follow button. And we also just started a YouTube channel as we promised. So subscribe to us on YouTube, search up Shooters Only Podcast. We have our first video up there if you want to listen to our podcast that way. Many ways to listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, and also on Amazon Podcasts as well. Plenty to cover this week, but I gotta say this, put this up today. We know it's a big day. It's January 20th, and it is the presidential inauguration. And being from the Bay Area, before I let you guys get a word in here, I just want to say it's a great day for Bay Area folks because we got the first Madam Vice President from the Bay Area, from Oakland, California, in Kamala Harris. And I just wanted to point that out there. It's a good day for us Bay Area folks to see that representation. First woman Vice President coming from the Bay. And there was a great video that the Warriors put out there, as it's a great day for Warriors fans too, as they're going to be representing their We Believe Oakland Forever jerseys tonight, taking on the Spurs. And I just want to shout out some people from that Warriors organization that I personally know, and starting off with the Director of Communications and Raymond Ritter for putting out that amazing video of Kamala Harris and Stephen Curry. Also to the producer and editor, Karina Anglada, and also Karen Ramming, the social media coordinator there for the Golden State Warriors. But that's all I have to say. I just got to shout out that for that monumental moment. So I'll let you all get your word in here after me taking the first couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'm excited, honestly, for a new era in American history. I think hopefully we can all be hopeful that should be some time where hopefully people can come together. And I'm glad to see what Kyrie Irving is doing off the court, which we might talk about later since we have a lot of Nets talk for you guys. But I like some of the stuff he's been doing recently as far as philanthropy, So that's been cool to see also, on top
like
of seeing Kamala get in there.
When he was maskless at a party in a club. Yeah, that was really good.
Oh my goodness.
Enough with the
really
what
looking
about
out
the
for the
houses
community
he
with
bought?
that.
What about the houses he bought?
Yeah. Kyrie did
We'll
a lot.
We'll talk about it.
Kyrie's done a lot of great things off the court, just as LeBron James has done great things off the court as well. People like to hate both of them on the court, but off the court as a man, as an individual, and a philanthropist, they're amazing and great people in that sense.
Kyrie doesn't have to worry about anything because in Orlando, you could do whatever you want down there in Florida. No mask or anything. So he'll be fine once he gets traded over there.
We got
not the Aaron Gordon trade.
Darren's taking Garrick's role here today on the Let's Get Negative. All right. But we gotta jump on as we do every single week. And we talk about our Eastern and Western Conference players of the week. And we got to start off in the Eastern Conference here. Kevin Durant, 2 games with James Harden, that dynamic duo for the Nets. Eastern Conference Player of the Week, Durant, 34 points, 5.3 rebounds, 8 assists on 61% shooting, and leading the Nets to 3-0 record. For your Western Conference, you got Damian Lillard, 30 points, 7.3 assists, 5.3 rebounds, and a 3-1 record for the week for the Portland Trailblazers after a slow start. Portland starting to have a hot streak themselves.
I just want to hit on Portland first because, Dame played super well this week. But with the news that CJ McCollum broke his foot and also Yusuf Nurkic going to be out about 2 months, I think, because of a broken wrist, it's going to be dire in Portland, wouldn't you guys say, with just Dame really over there? I think this is the team that's probably going to drop out of the playoff race.
I think, is this the time where you test all those wings you got? You see who can play the 5 possibly? Or are we looking at Zach Collins to fill in some minutes?
Well,
I know your
he's
guy Harry
injured
Giles,
too.
Darren. Oh goodness, I know your guy Harry Giles, Darren. Maybe he's licking his chops because he's a guy we saw that had a lot of potential. Obviously, the number 1 ranked high school recruit at the time over Lonzo Ball in 2017, that graduating class, and he showed a lot of things to be happy about when he was a Sacramento King. So maybe it's time for him to get unleashed. And Enes Kanter is one of the top rebounding centers as far as a guy who comes off the bench and just in general. So his offensive prowess is definitely going to be needed at that spot. But I'm looking at guys too, like Nazir Little, a guy who hasn't really gotten too much dick. But honestly, you might as well unleash him now if you
I'm
don't
here
think
for it,
you're going to be
Garrick.
as
I'm
good.
here for it.
Because
this is a guy that was top 3 in mock drafts at one time.
Exactly. And he was an extremely high IQ guy. I think he tested top 90 in the nation as far as percentiles for his SATs and stuff. So I think on and off the court, he's just a smart guy, and he has a 7'2" wingspan on top of all that. So for all you non-bookworms, there's a measurable that you can get excited about.
As we talk about NFL legends later on that are about to retire, like Drew Brees or Phillip Rivers that announced today, for you Portland Trailblazers fan, get excited because you're going to see more of the old man there at the forward position. You're going to see some more Melo, the original Melo, and Carmelo Anthony. And you're going to probably see some small ball there. Maybe you see Rocco playing the 5. It might be that dire for the Portland Trailblazers. And one thing that's disappointing to me is Anthony Simmons. We saw how, Portland thought he was going to be that player off the bench, probably a 6th or 7th guy a couple of years ago. Hasn't really lived up to that hype in the playoffs that we saw a couple of years ago. So I like for him to step his game up. It's been a couple of years, and before Portland ships him away or completely gives up on him, I'd like to see them give him one more chance with all these injuries.
Yeah, he's looking like the modern day Rodney Beaubois, if you guys remember that name from the Dallas Mavericks back in the day.
So I got a little anecdote here. So my first game in Oracle when the Warriors were still playing there, it was Steph Curry's 2nd year, and I went there. I see Rodrigue Beaubois start for the Dallas Mavericks with Dirk Nowitzki. That man put up 40 and a career high of 40 points that game. I'll never forget that game because of that. It was the Rodrigue Beaubois game. And then he left the league right after that year. So that's my memory of Rodrigue Beaubois.
Yeah, actually, I might need to give some respect to Rodrigue Beaubois because at least he had flashes. Anthony Simons has flashed a whole lot of nothing. So maybe I need to put some more respect on the Frenchman's name.
This is getting disrespectful. This sounds like an AC Law started over me type of situation is what we're talking about right here. But another guy I just want to shout out.
AC Law was nice in 2K.
At least he was nice in 2K. We can give him that. Shout out Ronnie. We need that sponsorship. But another guy I just wanted to shout out really quick is Gary Trent Jr. because he's been a guy I've been high on for a while, and we saw he torched the Lakers like some other franchises recently that torched the Lakers a few nights ago. We're not going to speak any names because I don't want to give Brandon too much hype here. But he's a guy who I feel like is just great at stretching out the floor, and he's willing to play defense. And he was already playing 25 minutes a game for them, and he's a winning player to me. So I feel like he's a guy who can't step into the CJ role, obviously, but he's going to be a great guy as far as them with the 2 position. And I like what Derek Jones Jr. can do too, just defensively and some of his switchability prowess. So I think they have something interesting going at the very least.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah, his role can be up there, as Kevin Garnett just said.
Are you doing that anything's possible sound because there's a possibility Portland might have the #1 pick after this season? The way these injuries have gone?
No, I'm saying these role players could possibly step up. But if you see Portland in the lottery, just like the Warriors did this year, that could be scary for them next year. You still got Dame and CJ, and you pick up a lottery pick with them. That might be a scary team.
That's what I'm saying. Like maybe have Dame Lillard go out with a sore hammy or groin for the next 4 to 8 weeks, and now we're cooking, baby.
Nope, he's on my fantasy team. Can't have that happen.
Yeah, I think they're good, honestly.
So he has to put up numbers but still lose.
Yeah. That's fair. I like that. I like that a lot better. But
should we talk about the Nets a little? Yeah.
Yeah.
My mind. What are you gonna say, Darren?
Throw me a soda, Garrick. I was just gonna say how good they look. I mean, the Kevin Durant James Harden partnership. It's like they didn't skip a beat from Oklahoma City. I mean, I just love that partnership together. That offense is unstoppable. I mean, James Harden's on his best behavior, passing the ball a lot. I mean, things are good in Brooklyn right now.
Yeah, he had that triple-double in his debut. What was it, like 13 assists for James Harden? That was just incredible to see.
Yeah, and KD just had 13 assists in one of his previous games too. And for all you stat heads out there, the last time he had that many assists was actually when he had 14 assists against the Knicks in 2018. So got to throw some salt into the wound between the New York battle, of course. But he was really close to his career high. And you can see just the way they're playing. They play extremely well off of each other. I think James Harden might have said it best. You know, we were young in OKC, but now we're men. And I think that's what you're really seeing because we see James Harden really working out there. At the end of the last game they played, when he missed that three, and then he just got his own rebound over all those Bucks players and passed it out just for KD to hit the dagger. I mean, this guy, he's playing motivated. And I think, like you said, Darren, maybe last time, people might have forgotten how good James Harden is, as ridiculous as that sounds. And now they're adding Kyrie. But do you guys think adding Kyrie to the mix could be possibly addition by subtraction? I know talent-wise it's not, but just as far as a fit.
You're right, talent-wise for sure it's not. As many jokes as I made about Kyrie off the court, I don't think that's the problem with him with this team. I think it's the on-court fit, just because adding another guy that's really just an isolation scorer, it seems like it's just too much offense or too much of the same guy. So I don't know how Kyrie's gonna like being, what did I call him in our group chat? He's gonna be regulated to a hippie Landry Shamet spotting up in the corner while Katie and Harden go to work. So I don't know how he's gonna take that role.
This is getting disrespectful.
Let's
the court.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be nice.
Yeah.
I don't even know, man. Brandon, what do you think actually? I gotta say something, but maybe I should calm down for a second before I say anything too reckless here.
Yeah, I gotta just say this before I say anything.
Whoa, brother! Whoa! Now,
and that's what Darren has. He has too much dip on his chip right now because Kyrie Irving, all-star, game-winning shot in the finals. As I said last week, you don't really have to have him see a large role. He's a guy that can have a usage rate in the 26s, right? Not even at the 30. And we saw him do that in his years with LeBron in Cleveland. I'm not expecting him to be the Kyrie Irving that we saw 2 years ago or even a year ago down there in Brooklyn, or a year ago, actually, because, after that trade. But anyways, Kyrie Irving can take that third man role as we've seen in previous seasons. The disrespect to being a Landry Shamet, though, that's just blown to a different proportion. I know you're trying to be funny, but I don't think it's that funny with Kyrie Irving and his skill set. I think he could drop a 15 points, a game, and you'll be happy with that. He doesn't even have the score 20 with how they're going there in Brooklyn. But as I said before, and Darren said the previous podcast, defense and that bench is going to be the main concern for Brooklyn down the line.
Yeah, to James Harden's credit, I will say this. He has been a disruptor out there, I've noticed. He's not necessarily the best on-ball defender, but as far as him in the passing lanes and being willing to go for loose balls, I think last year the stat was that he was third in the league as far as getting loose balls, like going out of bounds and stuff. So I think that's something interesting at least to look out for and think about. And KD over the last few games he seems like he's had 2 blocks pretty much every game from just looking at the stats. So I think in that sense, they still have some defensive chops, obviously. It just, are they going to be zoned in all the time to play defense? Because that defense is going to rely heavily on those guys, as opposed to maybe teams they've had in the past where they didn't have to maybe be these primary defenders, let's say. And I think that's the
I'll
main
answer
thing I'm
that
looking
question
at
for you, Garrick.
What are you
When
going
it
to
comes to
answer?
James Harden and Kyrie being zoned in on defense, it's a no. They're not going to be zoned in on defense for these regular season games. I'm sorry, it's not happening. The track record's too long.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be bad otherwise.
I think it's the role of the other players to understand when Kevin Durant or when James Harden is double teamed. It's the role of those players around them to understand when to cut to the basket or when to space the floor and move to the weak side or move to the ball side or just let them clear out and do their thing, go ISO one-on-one. And that's what set apart the Golden State Warriors a couple of years ago, because when you do play zone against 2-star players, the other players have to understand when the perfect time to cut to the basket is. If you're going to double Kevin Durant on the catch in the post, well, it's going to be basically over to you because you're going to have someone cut to the basket. So once they get the chemistry together, not only with those starters and those 3 players, it's going to be incredible to see, and we might see another team that's unstoppable, just like the Warriors were a couple of years ago.
I'm just gonna die on the hill that I don't think Kyrie's a good fit with these guys, and I think their path to a championship is trading him, because I love that Kevin Durant and James Harden duo, and I think you just surround role players around them, and I think Kyrie's just too much scoring.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's a trade where they got better, but they also got worse. In the terms that you get James Harden, a star player, but then you lose your bench. You lose Karis LeVert. You lose Jarrett Allen, 2 key guys that you need. And it's going to be tough on them. And the bench is going to be the issue. But, like I said before, if you have 3 superstars, hey, you might not need a bench. But come playoff time, when these guys have been playing 30 minutes, 40 minutes during the regular season, it might wind down to that, to whether they can hold up down in the playoffs with that stamina.
Do you think they'll be able to hold up with ending games with Harden, Durant, Kyrie, and Joe Harris defensively? Because that worries me.
I don't know.
That's fair.
That scares the hell out of
Jeff
me.
Jeff Green at the 5 is their only hope, honestly. Just outshoot the other team. Because Jared Allen comes back tonight if he's eligible, and it looks like he's going to play. And Colin Sexton, they basically traded him away. Brooklyn, I'm talking about, because he was that 8th pick. And Taurean Prince just had a fight over his locker that we might get into a little later. So those guys might come out negative, and I'm all here for it. I love the storylines, as you guys know. So
the Jared Allen revenge
DeAndre
game.
Jordan. I don't know, DeAndre. I'm feeling bad for you. I know your old teammate Blake. He's been looking a little sorry down there in Detroit, a little old in the joints, but Jared Allen might make you look the same way tonight. He might have one of those Rudy Gobert games where he has 19 and 18 on your head. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, let's just put this in perspective. In the small amount of games we've seen Kyrie Irving this season so far, 27 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 50% overall field goal shooting, and 42% from the 3-point line. So with numbers like that, and if he even, like I said, if he digresses in his role, which he will, and if he only scores 20 or just under 20 points while shooting 50%, I think that's not something you can worry about. And I think he's a great fit that way. We've yet to see him take a third man role. We've always seen him be the second man or the first man. So it's, as Darren said, I understand your concern there, but I think Kyrie can absolutely fit to that. He admitted to his wrongdoings. He said that, hey, the past is the past. Let's move on. Let's play some basketball. And I know his past issues off the court with other teams too still concerns us. So it's a matter of fact of when he takes the court, give him a couple of games. And hey, like you said, you're going to die on the hill here, Darren. And I don't blame you for that take.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt Kyrie's going to walk. He's going to score 23 to 25 points in his sleep with KD and James Harden. It's just, I don't know, how are the egos going to fit? Because I don't know if Kyrie's, he signed up to be with Kevin Durant, to be Kevin Durant's number 2, and then all of a sudden he's the third guy. I don't know how. I mean, even if I was in Kyrie's position, I don't know how I would take that. I'd be a little pissed off.
Yeah, basically what I'm hearing is, do you really value philanthropy or do you value creating revenue for gentlemen's clubs? Because let's not forget, this man, James Harden, was a problem before he got to Brooklyn. I know he's happy now. He's calmed down a little bit. But I think Kyrie's going to be fine, honestly, because I feel like he's just the guy. He knows how to play with these top guys. I mean, he did it all his career basically with LeBron. He didn't necessarily like it, but they were highly successful. And I know you have LeBron, and that's a different guy. That's a whole different character, obviously, from these two other guys. Not saying they're not all great, just as far as personality-wise and leadership roles they've taken on, but I think he can do it. He's kind of like a Bradley Beal, I feel like, in a sense, somewhat. I feel like he can kind of adapt his game depending on who he's been with in the past. But yeah, this big three, it's going to be balls to the wall as far as offense, obviously. It's just really the defense. And I guess the personalities, I'm going to trust D'Antoni because we haven't even talked about him. And if there's a guy who can unlock Kyrie to another level, I mean, look out with Mike D'Antoni. And James Harden said he's been trying to play the one more. And I'm okay with him playing the one, honestly, if Kyrie just wants to take as many shots as he wants, because I think the offense would look better just as far as a facilitating playmaking standpoint.
I like that because we saw the assist total so far for James Harden in his 2 games. I think he put up 12 and then 14 assists. And being a primary ball handler, if we see assist Harden, that's going to be scary too, because you got to respect his playmaking ability, not only with him attacking the basket and drawing those fouls, as we've always seen him do, but his ability to just be a playmaker and dish it out to his teammates. But that's a great point on Mike D'Antoni and Steve Nash, Garrick, because the 7-second or less offense is coming to Brooklyn with these 3 on the fast break. And you saw how it worked down in Phoenix with the point guard being Steve Nash and Amare down there. And now you get a role reversal where Steve Nash is the head coach and you got Mike D'Antoni there being his assistant. So good things are coming down there in Brooklyn. But any more last words before we settle down on the Brooklyn talk? Because I know fans are tired of us talking about the Nets.
Kyrie for Robert Covington and Zach Collins. Let's make it happen.
So
I hate it here.
A 3-point guard system then down in Portland coming to you soon.
My last words, right now, James Harden is averaging 10.5 assists. So he would technically be leading the league, but he's not league eligible as of now. And he has led the league in assists before. I say, if anything, let him run the point guard or be the primary guard, honestly, just as far as a ball handler, because if he's willing to dish it out like this and, he's going to play the I'm happy not taking that many shots, but I'm going to get my 11 free throws and my 15 points just outside of the free throw game, I'm fine with it. I think Kyrie can thrive. I think KD can thrive. It's just the personalities for me.
All right. Let's go over to another major injury. We'll touch on it for a bit. Not really as major as when it was first reported. The block leader is out with a hand injury, leading the NBA with 4.2 per game. And that's the Pacers' Miles Turner, 12.6 rebounds, 1 assist. And of course, those 4.2 blocks per game. We saw him have a minor fracture to the hand. It does not require surgery. And yesterday we saw a report where he was fully participating in practice. So 2 questions here. If it's an injury here with the hand and you have a little bit of a fracture that doesn't need surgery and your big man is pushing it in practice, like nothing's happening, do you got to limit him down? Are you concerned with him going all out even though he has that fracture in his hand?
I don't know, honestly. I feel like Miles Turner is such a great player as far as what he does, his versatility. Darren and I have talked about him kind of in the same vein, maybe as like an Al Horford type of guy. Not necessarily as good, obviously, but just the fact that he can stretch the floor fairly well for the most part. You know, he's had up and down seasons from three, but obviously his rim protection ability is really what you look to him towards. I think the Pacers are good enough right now to maybe rest him a little bit. And right now, I'm looking at my dark horse at all times guy, Goga Batadze. This man's only played one game so far this season for 16 minutes. But again, same thing with the Trailblazers. If there's a time to unleash somebody, it would be right now. So maybe just, let him play a few games, see how he feels in the NBA. And I don't know, you could even play DeMontis at the five if you really wanted to and try to replicate some of the Jokic offense as far as letting your big man really run the offense because we've seen his versatility as far as a passer also. So I think they're going to be okay. I think the only other thing I'm afraid of is they lost that 20-point score in Oladipo, and now with Karis LeVert unfortunately out with the complication he has with his kidney, I think that could be problematic for them obviously too. So it might be time to get a little scared, but I think they can still make the playoffs obviously.
Yeah, I mean, what's always been the problem for Indiana? They have the two bigs, and Miles Turner was kind of untradeable before this season. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved before the trade deadline, considering Indiana how much they've been dealing lately. He's a guy. He's not going to play with Oladipo in the playoffs together. They're not going to run out two bigs. So I know he didn't want to go to Boston, but Boston could be a trade candidate, I think, or just maybe the Clippers, any team that needs a center.
Yeah. Also, Jeremy Lamb is questionable for tonight, so we might see him play finally, and you get Justin Holiday and Doug McDermott more minutes. But yeah, as Garrick has mentioned, Goga Bitadze, we've only seen him for one game this season. So if they're really short on these guys, and if Lamb isn't playing today, we might see a little bit of action for him. But he's definitely the last guy on the roster. But with Garrick bringing up Karis LeVert, I mean, what a blessing in disguise. As he said, if that trade didn't happen, he said he was 100% healthy. He didn't feel that mass tumor in his kidney when he was playing. So as we all know, when players are traded, they have to be tested in terms of their physical capabilities. So he got his whole body scanned and they found that. So it was just crazy for him. And now there was a new report where I just saw before we recorded this podcast that he's just waiting to see if it's cancerous, that mass in his kidney. So prayers out to Karis LeVert, one of our favorite players here on the podcast.
Yeah, thank God they ran that physical on him because they caught that early. But were you guys surprised Indiana didn't cancel the trade after that? After he fails the physical? Because you are getting, I don't want to sound messed up, but you are getting a distressed asset in return. You're not getting the Karis LeVert you traded for. So I was surprised they still let that trade go through.
Yeah, my uncle Woj told me that they got an extra second, but I feel like that's not obviously enough compensation. Just when you're losing, to your point, Darren, when you're losing out on a guy who's, a 20-point scorer like I was highlighting earlier in Victor Oladipo, and probably an elite defender in a lot of ways when he's fully healthy. So I don't know. I'm surprised, yeah, the second was enough for them, but I guess they just believe in Karras enough, as they should, that when he does come back, hopefully eventually, that he'll still be the same guy and he'll still be able to produce at the level that we've seen him in years past.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of for them is just because Oladipo he was on an expiring contract, so maybe they're just trying to get anything they can in return for him.
And they maybe, since they knew he was injury prone too, they felt as if they could still handle it and come out of the East the way they did last year, because they didn't really have him obviously too much last year, and they were still able to play. And I don't know though, because I'm thinking about the fact they don't have TJ Warren either. So now this team is looking really slim, but maybe they're also thinking, just with the vid protocols, that they might end up playing less games, just because it looks like, I don't know if the East is more infected than the West, but it looks like a lot of games are getting canceled, as we know. So maybe that's something that these trainers or the coaches are planning out too, as far as why they're willing to still accept the trade.
Yeah, what's your guys' thoughts on Victor Oladipo? His trade discussion, really just him stating that he wants to go to Miami, really hasn't panned out, and it's died down. But he had a solid debut with the Houston Rockets, in which he scored 32 points, 9 assists, both season highs, and he seems pretty comfortable there down in Houston after a performance like that. Do you expect him to stay in Houston, or do you think he'll get booted out before the trade deadline?
Yeah, he's in the contract year, so I think he's just gonna shut up and try to play his best just to get a new contract next season because no one wants to sign a guy that's a diva or has a big ego. So I think he's just gonna be on his best behavior and he's gonna do well for Houston. I think that he's gonna keep them maybe in play-in tournament contention.
Yeah, he's just another guy. Obviously, you can look towards just to get a bucket for you. Probably one of the most dynamic guys in the NBA as far as a scorer, just with his speed and his agility. And I think in that sense, he should be fine. I still really like them having Christian Wood there because I feel like he can relieve a lot of pressure because he's not that traditional big where you can just dump the ball down to him. He's pretty versatile out on the perimeter too, and he can kind of create his own shot. And they still have John Wall, but I think he's injured now. You were saying earlier, Darren. So I don't know. I think Houston still has a lot of talent. It's just going to be, are they going to be able to rise from the ashes? Kind of like a phoenix, I guess, honestly, to really put themselves on the map because it's going to be tough for them. But he seems to be willing to play just based on some things he said recently. I just think for Miami, it would be hard to get it done. I know Pat Riley is always looking towards the next thing, but Tyler Hero right now is having neck spasms, unfortunately, and it's also his 21st birthday, so it's a rough way to go out on your 21st, but I think hopefully he'll be okay soon. But I don't really know if Miami has even the assets to do it right now because I think Tyler Hero is the guy I'm asking for if I'm the Rockets, and it looks like I'm rebuilding as of right now. So I don't really know what the move would even be, to be honest with you.
Well, that's the end of that, and we'll move over to Cleveland Cavaliers before we have one of our favorite segments in Contenders or Pretenders, looking at the NBA playoff rankings right now. I know it's super early, but we'll be doing that. So down to Cleveland and in Sexland, where those two, Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, both questionable to come back tonight. You know, Kevin Love is still out. He should be coming back hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks. But in terms of those two coming back, how big of a boost is this for Cleveland? And right after that, Kevin Porter Jr. news. We saw him have that outbreak just because they gave the locker that he had to Taurean Prince in the trade. So we can also touch on that as well.
Yeah, I think Cleveland is the team we thought they were. I mean, after a really hot start, they're 3-7 in their last 10 games. I don't think Colin Sexton or Darius Garland's going to help that much. And I think, teams like Miami and Toronto are going to be moving up in the standings. Well, I think Cleveland's going to be falling to the bottom of the East pretty soon.
Yeah, I think Cleveland could have something similar to the Pelicans effect right now, where it's just they seem to have a lot of good defenders, but not really anybody who can stretch the floor outside of maybe like Larry Nance Jr. occasionally, and then Colin Sexton at times. I think.
Ooh, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, I mean, I think Darius Garland's gotten better too, but because he was touted as the best shooter in that draft class, but you still have two guys who they kind of said fit into that CJ Dame mold, right? And as far as you not having those elite wing defenders on top of that, and we mentioned it last episode that the East might be even stronger than the West now, just as far as depth wise. And even if you're going at the top of the ladder, I don't know if you're going to be able to get those stops. I know you just added Jared Allen. That's great for your defense. Taurean Prince is a solid 3-and-D guy, but sometimes he doesn't bring the three to the equation. And now being on a team with really starved for shooters and a team where he might have to create more than he would have obviously on a Brooklyn, it's going to be really hard for them to create some offense and get those opportunities to really dominate other teams. And I don't like the Andre Drummond, Jared Allen fit either, honestly, because this is a Jared Allen fantasy owner. I cried a few tears. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I might have been in the fetal position for longer than I'd like to admit, but man, I don't know what they're gonna do if they're running those two guys at the 4 and the 5. I'm all here for big men, but this is getting ugly. Hopefully,
Yeah.
Kevin Love comes
Are
back
you
with
saying
this.
you're not excited for the 4 center lineup, Garrick, with Thon Maker and Larry Nance Jr. paired up with those other two guys?
All right, when you said Thon, I cracked a little bit of a smile for all the viewers who can't see because that man is a point god in 2K. But I think they really need Kevin
Also,
Love.
JaVale McGee.
Man, this is
It's
just
time.
this is becoming buyout central. The more you talk about Cleveland, that's what it just sounds like to me. They need Kevin Love, man. They need their former All-Star 20 and 10 guy who can stretch the floor for them. That's all.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned JaVale McGee, obviously I think Jarrett Allen is going to take over those minutes with splitting time with Andre Drummond, and I've also heard that JaVale could, that could be some interest for the Toronto Raptors who waived Aaron Baines, right? And that could be something interesting to see down in Toronto where you match up a guy with Chris Boucher, who, we've seen him roll to the paint, get those blocks, athletic big, and JaVale McGee, and, who sometimes can knock a three down. So interesting to see what they'll do there. But in terms of just Cleveland there and that situation going on, where do we also see Kevin Porter Jr.? Cleveland has given him multiple chances throughout the year. We've seen him have off the court troubles, possession of marijuana, and carrying a handgun. So, what does Cleveland do there? What team do you think they can go to? I know you Lakers fans have, probably had an eye on him too, with a potential to go down there.
Yeah, I don't really get this with Cleveland, like them shunning Kevin Porter Jr. Like, you're the Cleveland Cavaliers. You need as many talented young players as you could get. There's a guy that averaged 10 points last year. I mean, he has a great offensive game. If I'm Cleveland, I'm trying to figure it out with him because, like, you don't have much talent, so why are you trying to trade away even more young talent, even if he is a little bit of a head case? It's not like you have a great culture there anyways.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I think to quote the Cleveland song, "We're not Detroit." That's the main selling point, right? Like, if you not being Detroit doesn't make it like a good spot or destination to be at. So I think in that sense, you just have to do what you can with what you have. And he's a great young player, like you said, Darren. He is former Trojan, a guy who a lot of people saw as really could be a steal, and he looked great in a lot of ways. Granted, somewhat of a black hole in offense, but man, when he was lighting it up, he could really light it up from the floor, and he looked like their second or third best player last year at times. So I don't know.
Yeah, you
I
could
think
argue
maybe
he
the
was better than
Magic.
Darius Garland last year.
Oh, most definitely a lot. Yeah, quite easily actually, just because Darius Garland had a rough year just shooting overall, but I think he's gone a little more into his stride, luckily for him. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Magic. I feel like they're a team that always needs extra scorers, honestly. I know we always bring them up. Possibly the Raptors even, honestly, because they're a team that's kind of starving for guys to create offense. I feel like sometimes we
I like
talked about
that.
a team with a bunch of second options. So maybe Kyle Lowry, the ultimate glue guy, straightens him out. So who knows? I think if you guys want to throw out some teams, but those are just teams I thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Raptors. Get him into that culture.
So no Lakers for y'all? Would you welcome him to the team with open arms?
I'd welcome Alex Len possibly, but I don't know about him right now. It's a pipe dream for me. So I'd say no.
No. Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Would you take him on
Yeah,
the
we're in
Dubs?
win now mode.
Dubs
No.
over Kelly?
No, not at all. We got Jeremy Lin down there in the G League, so we'll see if he can come back.
Shout out our Taiwanese Americans and our Taiwanese fans.
Yeah.
You
Thanks
guys
for
have been
bringing that
putting
up.
out for us.
Thanks for bringing that up, Garrick. We want to shout out all our international listeners too. We have some statistics of our demographics of listeners, and Taiwan in there, right behind our U.S. viewers. So shout out to all of you there, and of course our Australians come in at third. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi.
There we go. That's the Gales chant right there for all you St. Mary's listeners. And shout out to Patty Mills, right? A couple of weeks ago, doing that work for the Spurs there. And Matthew Dellavedova, did he just die because he's not even on the Cavaliers rotation as we continue to talk about the Cleveland team?
He might have died, but at least he's making $8 million a year, so can't hate on him for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
He's still the St. Mary's GOAT at the end of the day.
Yeah,
He'll always have a place in my heart, even if he's not playing on a roster. He might not be on that roster, but he's number 1 in my heart. Number 16 on some NBA teams, though.
That's fair. That's fair. And speaking of the Cleveland Cavaliers, we're gonna head into our segment of contender or pretender. So let's get that started. Oh, sorry, wrong audio that we played there. That was a Kawhi laugh. So we'll mute that one off. And here's our contender or pretender segment.
Contender or pretender?
So let's start off with the Cleveland Cavaliers. We talked about them potentially falling off with all of these injuries, and Sexton is coming back though. We don't know what the rotation is going to be. The big mans, who are they going to trade away? So just looking at it right now, does Cleveland hold on to a playoff spot, including the play-in tournament potentially?
I'm gonna go no, just because I'm sticking to my guns from the preseason. This is not a good team. I don't care how they started the season. They've been 3-7 their last 10 games. I think it's gonna go downhill quick for Cleveland.
Even with Sexton back.
Yes, even with Sexton back. I mean, I was predicting before the season they'd be one of the worst teams with both those guys, and I don't think much is going to change. I mean, they're last in offense right now.
But they still want to get rid of my boy. Just for that, he's putting the little B curse on you guys, I feel like, as we speak. The locker room curse. That's what we're going to call it. But yeah, I think they're pretenders too, honestly, Brandon. I'm just looking at the rest of the East, and I feel like there's a lot of other strong candidates out there that I feel better about personally.
Yeah. So are we going to call this the Kid Cudi curse because he's from Cleveland?
I don't know. Tequila Shots was kind of fire, though, so I don't want to disrespect Kid Cudi like that.
I hope not. I don't even. Let's call it the Cleveland song curse. I feel like that sounds better.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so let's take a look at another team on the East, the Toronto Raptors. Currently, they sit there as the third to the last team in the Eastern Conference, on a bit of a winning streak now, winning 3 games in a row, starting to find their stride. Again, we mentioned Van Fleet there, Siakam and Anunoby, and the emergence of Chris Boucher. They're looking like they're starting to heat up there. So Toronto, are they in the playoffs? Again, when I say this, including the play-in tournament.
Absolutely. I just think this team got off to a slow start just because of the move to Tampa. I think it's just a big adjustment for any team. They're like in their own bubble already. So I don't know how that was affecting Pascal in particular, just because of the way he played in the bubble last year. But he's come on as of late. I think he's like top 5 now in fantasy for small forwards. So 3-game winning streak. I think Toronto's going to be just fine. And they're a team, if you're like Brooklyn in the first round and you're playing Toronto as the 6th seed, that's a matchup I would be really afraid of.
Yeah, I agree. I heard they're only allowed to play Kodak Black in warmups initially since they moved to Florida. So I think that might have affected some of their playing style, just because, when you listen to Drake, I feel like there's a lot more sense that you need to just get things done. I feel like Kodak makes you a little lazier. So maybe they just came out a little lazy, but as a team that's 5-5 now, or 5-5 in the last 10 games, excuse me. And like you said, Brandon, they won their last 3. I think they're a team that's really starting to come on, and Chris Boucher is a big part of that. We were talking about it before the podcast. He could be a 6th man of the year kind of guy. He's not even starting. So just as far as his production, he was a guy in the G League who was most valuable player, and defensive player of the year. So that just goes to show what he's about. And I think they have a great culture as far as their G League guys that they've just brought up and really made great players, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Crunch
And
time,
for
if
that,
you're oh, go ahead, Brandon.
for that Kid Cudi reference there, or excuse me, that Kodak reference there, I just gotta. That's all I wanted to do. Okay, Darren.
It wasn't that funny. Let's not give Garrick too much credit. Anyways, if you're going crunch time with Kyle Lowry, Van Fleet, Siakam, OG, and Boucher, or however you say his name, he just came
without
onto
the R.
the scene.
Without the R at the
He
end.
just came onto the scene, so he doesn't get his name pronounced correctly. That's a devastating defensive lineup, and all those guys are pretty young outside of Lowry. So I think I have really big hopes for this team because you got your five. Terrence Davis is coming back. Norman Powell
Has been asked.
Baines off the bench. That's a great 8 that you're going into the playoffs with. So I'm excited for this team.
Yeah.
They will win a playoff series. You heard it here first.
So second round exit for Toronto.
I'm
No
here
shame
for
in
that.
No shame in that.
Yeah.
Shout out Nick Nurse. About to
Yeah,
take over the series
you
with his
also
X's and
have
O's.
the best coach in the NBA, so I can't bet against that either.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. A couple more East teams here. So, give a little bit of our spiel. Currently sitting at the 10th spot. So, yeah, they'll be in the play-in tournament. The Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo Ball and the Charlotte Hornets there. They've dropped 3 in a row, though. And sitting at the 9th spot is the Orlando Magic. After a hot start to the season going undefeated, which they started 4-0, they've now lost 6 games in a row, leading the NBA in that sense. So 9 and 10th spot, which of these two teams do you think makes the play-in tournament?
Is there a answer for neither? Because I'm also seeing the Heat and the Raptors below them, and I think those two teams are just way better than Orlando and Charlotte.
Yeah, no, that you can totally say neither.
I don't hate it, honestly. I've been looking at the Heat all year, and again, we're only 12 games into this, so I don't want to judge them too quickly, but I am kind of scared for them. I feel like they're having like a playoff hangover, honestly, or championship hangover, near championship hangover, it feels like as of right now. And I just feel like I trust the Hornets a lot. I think I've just become delusional maybe in my love for LaMelo Ball and how great I think he can be. But I don't know. I think Gordon Hayward has provided some pretty good spark for them. Terry Rozier, I said a few episodes back, has been really good offensively. But again, the same thing kind of for them. I don't know who their defensive tandem or unit would really be to make me say, yeah, this team is really going to stand out. But I'll take the Hornets, honestly, over all 3 of those teams. I'm just going to say it. So that's how I'm feeling right now. Sorry, Vucevic.
Interesting stat about the Hornets. They do lead the league in assists. So shout out LaMelo Ball for that. I think the thing with the Heat that we're discrediting them because they haven't had their 2 best players for like 70% of the season, with Jimmy Butler being injured, I think with the foot, and also Bam and COVID protocols the last couple of weeks. So I think once you get those 2 guys back, yeah, and Hero getting out with neck spasms, as Garrick said, I think once they get healthy, they're not gonna miss the playoffs. Come on, guys. Come on.
Okay.
This is a team that was just in the finals last year.
Yeah. No, I like that.
What about the Bulls? What do you guys think about them super quick? I say no, but I feel
like
they
the
have
Bulls.
a lot of interesting players.
I think
like
Zach
that.
LaVine's been playing great this year.
No, I like them. I agree with you there, absolutely, Darren. I think him and Kobe White's been on a tear with being a playmaker and dishing it out. Like we've seen more of those assist numbers going up for Kobe White. He's definitely taken a step up, and I like those 2 down there. I like them. Hey, it might be crazy, but I might say it just because it being a hot take. But for the next 2 to 3 years, I might like those 2 duos there in the backcourt more than I like Dame and CJ down in Portland.
Woo! You know what? That's why you come to this podcast, though.
This is
We're
the
gonna look back
injury
on this in
take.
2 years.
He
Yeah.
forgot who CJ McCollum was right now. Nah, I don't hate it, honestly.
CJ
I like Kobe
McCollum,
White a lot.
yeah. CJ McCollum, he was the type of player we thought that we've seen his full potential, but then he just brought it up to another level this year, increasing his scoring and his 3-point shooting. So we'll see how the year ends, and if he keeps it that way, then that opinion might change. But Zach LaVine, I mean, come on, let's give this man credit.
He's been balling.
We saw him going out last year with a shitty Bulls team, and now this year where he's gotten a little bit of help now from Kobe White, and you got Otto Porter there. He's been pretty solid this season with Pat Williams as well. And shout out to everyone that knows this. And we played this sound last week, and I just had to play it again because Otto Porter Jr. is.
Could Otto Porter Jr. be the grandson
So
of
shout out Mike Kurzemba there. We had to bring that out. And Otto Porter Jr. Yeah, looking nice on the forward spots there. So Chicago Bulls, I think they might make it in the play-in tournament, and I like them over Charlotte. Sorry, Garrett. I love LaMelo Ball, and he's proved me wrong, and I've changed that take since the start of the draft because he's a playmaker. He's obviously better than Lonzo Ball, and he's the best ball brother out there.
My
I
one
don't know how to
question
feel about that, but I'll take it.
My one question about Chicago is what do you do with Lauri Markkanen? Because I think it's obvious that your best front court defensively, and I think overall, is Patrick Williams, Otto Porter, and Wendell Carter.
Mm-hmm.
So would you guys be surprised if Lauri Markkanen maybe gets traded? He didn't get signed to that rookie extension in the offseason. And I just don't know where he fits with this team.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, honestly, because I think this guy's in a John Collins situation. And for all of you who know about John Collins, you got to flip that man for a pack before you can't get anything back from him because I don't know. These guys
it's not like
win a
he's
lot
playing
of money.
bad. He's averaging like 20 points on 50, 40, 90 almost, but
Yeah.
I know he's had a resurgence. I just worry about the fact that he's a 7-footer but can't play defense. Like, I feel like that's what really bothers me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't feel like he shouldn't be a 4 in the modern NBA. He should really be a 5. And then you have Wendell, who you've already secured up. So I could see them flipping him, honestly. I totally agree with that, honestly. It's just interesting to see where he would go.
yeah, how many teams need a big guy that can shoot but doesn't play defense? It's hard to fit your team around a guy like that.
Well, yeah, we'll have to move on now to the Western Conference, and Jazz win last night puts them at 6 games in, currently at the 2nd spot, right behind your two's Los Angeles Lakers. So it's not a question of if they're contenders or pretenders, but can the Jazz stay in the top 3 in the Western Conference, or is this just a fluke for the Jazz? And we'll let this sound effect play.
You guys lose this game or did
And
the Jazz win?
if you don't know where that's from, that was the soundbite from Russell Westbrook's interview a couple of years ago, where they asked him if the Jazz won the game or if they just lost it. So for the Utah Jazz and that performance last night, Jordan Clarkson has been in a hot streak for, I don't know, the past couple 2 to 3 weeks already, looking like a 6th man of the year contender. Donovan Mitchell showed out last night.
Are you guys ready to hop in? I mean, I've been driving the Jazz bandwagon since the beginning of the season, and I've been getting a little bit of backlash on this podcast, but are you guys ready now? Are you converted?
No, never, not even
Whoa.
once.
Whoa. Let's be clear here, Darren.
I think Brandon's been in it too.
I was on the bandwagon with you. I compared them to being, I think I said the Miami Heat of last year and the resurgence up there. And you said they have one of the deeper benches in the NBA. And man, have they showed that this season? And top 4, I can see them. That's why I present this question, because I can absolutely see them finishing in the top 4 out there in the West, because some teams are still trying to figure it out.
And I think the thing that excites me the most is Bojan Bogdanovic. He's not even really playing that well. He's only averaging 13 points this year, and he was a 20-point-a-game guy last year.
And he's shooting under 40.
Yeah, he's going to pick it up this season. I think that might be due to his wrist injury he got surgery on during the offseason. Jordan Clarkson's not going to keep on playing this well. He's not going to shoot 49% from the field. That's going down to mid to low 40s at best. So, I mean, I'm just excited about this Jazz team, though, even though I just slandered our guy Clarkson. They're deep.
Yeah, I don't. Outside of Royce O'Neal, I feel like everybody else is tradable for me. No, but in all seriousness, I think the Jazz are really good. Obviously, defensively, they're one of the best rebounding teams in the NBA, and I think that's still important because you got to stop possessions and you got to create extra possessions. Obviously, so they're always going to have that going for themselves. Donovan Mitchell, he's not a top 20 player, but he might be a top 25 player. I'll give you guys that. So they all have that to look forward to.
Does that bother you? Does Donovan Mitchell not give you any sleep?
No, it's just I think that's my insomnia, but maybe he's part of that. Who knows? He might live in my head rent free. You know what doesn't give me any sleep?
What?
Like Shaquille O'Neal. That $200 million contract that Rudy Gobert just got, because this man can drop 11 points and people still see him as a top 5 center, which he is until playoff times come around, because that man gets played off the floor sometimes, and that scares me as a Jazz fan if I am one.
Is he? I think we don't remember his impact. We just always look at that scoring that he has, and I think a good comparison for him, I think he could be the Draymond Green of centers, right? Like he has that impact for you on the defensive side and basketball IQ in terms of rotations, and we just don't give him enough respect because he's not putting up numbers offensively.
I just don't think he can.
I think we might just be overplaying him getting played off the floor, because let's think about the two teams that played him off the floor. It was the James Harden Rockets, who, that's just an anomaly of a team. They're the ISO ball kings, and then the greatest team of all time, the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant. So I think with the way the West is shaping up this year, with Jokic, AD being probably your two, along with the Clippers, those three teams being your biggest rivals, I think he'll be just fine in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the answer there for the Utah Jazz. Garrick, you think they'll finish top 4?
Oh yeah, they'll probably finish top 4.
Okay. So let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic, currently sitting at the 10th spot. Are they in or are they out? Are they contenders or pretenders?
This is a tough one for me. Just because I'm looking at the West, I think Memphis and San Antonio are definitely dropping out, so I got to put them in at least the play-in tournament.
Okay. Garrick?
Also Portland.
Yeah.
So those three teams are dropping out of the top 8. You put Denver and Dallas moving up there. I think they'll be just fine.
Garrick?
Yeah, I think Luka's too good, and with Porzingis coming back, I think that's going to be too much to handle, honestly. So yeah, I'd say they make it. I don't know where exactly, but I'd say they make it.
Yeah. And I just want to call out one of our fantasy group members here, Porzingis. He held on to him, listening to it. John, I offered you Jonas Valanciunas and Chris Boucher, and you rejecting it. I think that's pretty bad because Boucher is looking pretty good right now.
You know what's worse?
What up?
The fact that he's going to make a conscious decision not to listen to this podcast now, so he doesn't have to hear it. No. Hopefully he listens. Hopefully he learns his lesson after he sees. And
hopefully he listens
beast.
And subscribes to our YouTube channel of Shooters Only Podcast, and also our Instagram of Shooters Only Podcast, where we're going to be posting some fire content here. We got 2 great managers here on the Instagram platform. We got Garrick, and on YouTube we got Darren here. And we're just
that was a professional plug, Brandon. I love that. But yes, on the YouTube channel, we're going to be trying to put out, like shorter videos, maybe 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah. We're trying to put out some fire content, and we'll eventually get this to a live show. We'll be having it on YouTube or other platforms, and we'll be figuring that out. So 2021 is off to a big year for this podcast. So another team on the radar here, Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic. They're at the 9th spot right now. I think we're going to all agree that they're going to be in here because Michael Porter Jr. still isn't playing, and I've been on the MPJ bandwagon since last year. So when he comes back, I think he'll elevate this Nuggets team.
Yeah, they'll be fine. Nuggets and Mavericks will both be fine.
Yeah.
Can I throw in a team? I'm surprised we didn't have this team in the contenders and pretenders because I'm really even though I slander them
Are they
so
in the
much,
West?
I love them as a contender.
Are they in the
No,
West?
they're in the East. The New
Okay,
York
the Washington
Knicks.
Wizards. Oh, yeah, New York Knicks.
I'm all in on the New York Knicks making the playoffs this year.
I'm all
planting
for
my
it.
flag right now.
Yeah,
Darren
Darren,
Thibodeau. He's
I'm all
squeezing the
for it.
most out of these guys.
I'm all
Julius
for
Randle
it.
looking like most improved. Emmanuel quickly looking like the
No.
Clyde Frazier.
Okay, let's
It's
hold
happening.
down. Let's hold out on the
Whoa,
quickly
whoa,
take
whoa, whoa.
because Alfred Payton is playing over him and taking his minutes, and quickly was what Knicks fans wanted right now, and he's coming off the bench, but Payton's playing a lot better than him. And shout out to Alfred Payton for a resurgence there. I just think the downside to them is RJ Barrett, right? He still can't shoot, right? And Julius Randle has taken his game to another level. I'd like for RJ to do that, and he just still hasn't. He hasn't figured out the NBA.
I think that just comes down to there's just not enough shooting for RJ Barrett to succeed on this team. Even though I just planted my flag on the Knicks being a
Yeah.
contender. Who's the best outside shooter on the team? I'm trying to think right now. Maybe like Julius Randle.
Oh God! So
RJ
That's
a 35%
disrespectful.
3-point shooter is the best shooter.
that's what I'm saying. There's just not much space for RJ to operate. I mean, he's the type of guy that needs to, have space to go bulldoze into the paint because you can't really trust that outside shot.
Are we forgetting the
Well,
mixtape legend
Alec
himself?
Burks. Alec Burks, when he comes back, we forgot about him. He was shooting lights out, so he's probably the best shooter for that team.
And the mixtape legend himself, Austin Rivers? I don't know, man. That guy's a sniper.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Free my boy RJ. Get him some shooting, and the numbers will look a lot better.
To be fair, it's not only on the people around him. If you can't shoot the ball yourself, you're not a threat to dish it out to your shooters. You're basically Ben Simmons, just driving it in every time. But okay, another team now. Since we still got NFL talk, guys. So a couple more teams here in the West because of big NFL playoff implications for the Super Bowl coming up. So let's talk about again Portland and Golden State. Portland Trailblazers, are they going to be fine there? We've said that they might potentially be dropping out because of those Nurkic and McCollum injuries.
Yeah, I think we hit on Portland earlier. I think all of us agree the downfall's coming.
Yeah,
I really want to.
Yeah, I'm just going to say
Brandon.
real quickly, I think they get a 10th spot. I think they still make the playoff or the play-in tournament if Damian Lillard's, doing Dame things again.
The
Yeah, I
most
just really
dangerous
wanna
A
talk-
seed.
I just really want to talk about Golden State because I watched that whole game against the Lakers. I think it might have been 2 days ago, and they looked. I mean, as much as it pains me, they looked really impressive because Steph didn't even play very well in particular. Like he had that one shot at the end against AD, and they still beat the Lakers at home. So I think things are looking up for the Warriors with Draymond's return.
I like a tweet that they put up, and as Warriors fans, we've been joking about this season that our second unit is better than our starters, and that there was a tweet where the second unit for the Warriors could probably be an 8th seed in the East. So I thought that was funny, but I think to Garrett's credit, I want to bring this up because Steve Kerr brought this up a couple of days ago on a local radio station here in the Bay Area, and they asked him, they're like, "Are you going to stick with this starting lineup?" And I think Garrett knows where this is going because he has a smirk coming up, and I think he likes this. Steve Kerr said that if he had to win a game, his legacy was on the line, fate of the universe. He wants Iguodala. No, I'm just kidding. He's not taking Iguodala. But in all seriousness, he was like, "This isn't the starting lineup that I'm going to put out. This is the starting defensive lineup that I want with Kelly Oubre out there because Oubre has been playing pretty solid the past couple of games. But if he had to win a game, I think he didn't really say the players, but he was alluding to Damian Lee and Kevon Looney being in that starting lineup if they had to win a game because James Wiseman has been in foul trouble. But as I said on this podcast, the Warriors defensively could be one of the most underrated teams. And we saw that in that Lakers game because Andrew Wiggins had several key blocks. Kelly Oubre, great defensive player. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I just want to hit on your what you're talking about Wiseman, because I think that might be the biggest problem for this team, because he's playing a lot of minutes. He's starting when I think in reality there should be more Kayvon Looney, because Wiseman right now has the worst plus minus on the whole entire team. Even though he's super talented, he's still a rookie center. They're going to be growing pains. So it's going to be up to Steve Kerr to kind of balance, Wiseman's development with also trying to win now and go for that playoffs.
Yeah, I think
Shout out
the
to
thing
Garrett.
too is, thank you. I appreciate it.
Kelly Oubre.
No, but
Kelly Oubre and Kelly Oubre as the lead guy in the second unit. I like that.
yeah, free Damian Lee, free the actual brothers, not the Splash brothers, but the actual brothers, and Damian Lee and Steph Curry in the backcourt. But the only thing I was gonna say with James Wiseman, I feel like he kind of is giving me shades of Jaren Jackson Jr., honestly. Not as far as his defensive impact necessarily, because I think Jaren Jackson Jr. could be an otherworldly defender, obviously, from some of his potential we've seen. But I think based off some of the blocks we've seen and some of his mobility, it's a little similar, not to the same level, but just the fouling out, honestly, or like the problem of reaching a little too much. And that's something I've been thinking about, just the fact that he might not know how to do all those big man things yet, because I think outside of playing the one as a rookie in the NBA, for all the non-NBA fans, the point guard position, I think outside of that, the center is probably the hardest, because you have to know the defense all the time. And I think he has a great tutor in Draymond there, obviously, but he just seems scared sometimes, or he doesn't always necessarily know where to be. But I think that's totally okay when you have a guy as talented as him. And heck, I mean, a guy leading off the bench unit with him and Eric Pascal possibly just popping off against former bench players or other bench players, it's going to be scary for other teams, I think, because Pascal can get it done too, man.
Yeah, and we've kind of dodged the question here, and we lost track. But are the Warriors contenders or pretenders? Do they make the play-in tournament?
I think they're one trade away from being a contender. They need one more guy that can handle the ball outside of Steph, and I'm putting them in that contender category. But right now, I just think there's just not enough around Steph. I think teams are going to start catching on. Like, he's really the only guy you need to guard. So right now, I'm going to say pretenders. I just don't think they're talented enough.
So they're not making.
I had them 6 to 8. Oh, I was just going to say I had them.
I mean, they might, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Gotcha.
I had them 6 to 8, and I'm going to stick with that, honestly, because I think Steph is still kind of a dark horse MVP as of right now, just the way he's been playing. I saw a stat, kind of interesting. Just want to throw it out here. He was shooting 50% on contested threes. I think he was 16 for 32, but then he was 28% on open threes, which is really strange. But I mean, when you're making shots where Anthony Davis is closing out on you and you can take a step back in his mouth just to ice the game, Flight's going to have a heck of a time seeing that. So I think we're all just happy about how inspirational Steph was last night.
You know what? I have Steph on my fantasy team, and he's been a lot more inconsistent than people are talking about, because he's just super up and down. It's like 30 points one night, 11 points another. I'm kind of worried about his ability to carry a team every night, James Harden style. I don't think he's that type of player, and I think it's just going to be a roller coaster the whole season.
Yeah, I think Darren's just a Curry hater, as always. We know in the podcast, everyone that listens in, I think we've seen Curry double team and triple team this year, and he's been able to find his options. Kelly Oubre has been able to cut to the basket. Yeah, I think the Warriors are in the play-in tournament. I don't think they're a contender for the championship, of course, but yeah, I think they make the play-in tournament. And as I've said before, Stephen Curry, not the first time he's cucked Anthony Davis. We saw that shot to tie it in the playoffs a couple of years ago over Anthony Davis when he was on the Pelicans. So that's all I got to say. Steph better.
It hurts me, but
yeah. Okay, so that's enough of all that NBA talk. We got more coming up next week for you. We'll be recapping everything in the NBA as we do every single week. But now it's time to talk about the NFL. Now, Final Four teams in this one. We got the Green Bay Packers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Championship. And in the AFC, we got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on my bandwagon Buffalo Bills. So it's time for this segment of Picks of the Week.
Picks of the week, picks of the week, picks of the week.
Well, yeah, that was me there on the singing at the end. But picks of the week, guys. We got to recap and talk about the divisional rounds last week. And Drew Brees probably has played his last game. Of course, I did not hit on my Rob Gronkowski 3-touchdown game because he only had one damn catch in that game. But a win's a win for Tampa Bay. And how do we feel, real quickly, guys, on the legacy of Drew Brees? Is he a sure first ballot Hall of Famer? And what kind of career has he left there for New Orleans?
Yeah, we can't just skip over Brandon's absolute a cappella show right there with that singing. That was fantastic. As for Drew Brees, we know about the comments he made in the offseason, so I'm not mad that he went out really sad in the divisional round. But like, as for legacy, I mean, he's a top 5 to 7 quarterback of all time. And if you're a Saints fan and you look back on having 15 years of Drew Brees and Sean Payton and you only have one Super Bowl, I know you still got a Super Bowl, which a lot of franchises would die for, but it's kind of a disappointment considering how great those two guys were.
So at Colin.
Yeah, I think I was trying to think about this. You know those comments on Instagram where they're like, explain this in basketball terms for me.
Yeah.
Would you guys say he's like Dirk Nowitzki maybe? Or I was thinking Dirk or Hakeem as far as like legacy. Because I know he ranks as top in a lot of those, completion. I think he has one of the best completions of all time. Obviously, just highest percentage wise. I want to say it's up there in 68, maybe 70%. And then just all time completions.
Thomas,
yeah.
with those slant
Shout out
routes,
for Slant
for getting
Boy.
that up.
So,
but no,
what do you guys
think
think about that?
I think that's a good comparison, but I think I can give you a better comparison in the NBA. And I think it would be Kevin Garnett, because he was up there, right, in terms of being one of the best power forwards with Tim Duncan. And Drew Brees, I think, is top 3 there. Sometimes you get some discussion of being one of the top quarterbacks ever to play the game with Peyton Manning and all of those legends. And I think with that one Super Bowl win and with Kevin Garnett there also winning one title with the Boston Celtics and how generational he was for the power forward position, I think that's a better comparison in that sense. But yeah, I think Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
The fact that Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers have 2 Super Bowls combined just shows how hard it is in the NFL to, have a dynasty and win multiple rings. Because those guys are both top 5, like, all-time greats.
Yeah. Okay. We've talked about Drew Brees and his legacy. We want to say to Phillip Rivers too. I think he's going to enjoy that. I think that was the right choice for Indianapolis. They can either draft a quarterback. Maybe there's a guy by the name of Luck that might want to come back for them. But yeah, I think that was a good choice for Phillip Rivers. He's like, hey, let's play it out for one more season with a new team. Let's see what we can do on the final show. And I think he's going to enjoy retirement with his 10 kids.
Yeah, shout out Phillip Rivers. He played really good that last Bills game. And I think Indy, are we on Jameis watch for Indy? Because he's a free agent this year. They need a quarterback.
Yeah, they could be on Jameis watch, or they could be on Taysom Hill watch, depending on who New Orleans wants to roll out with. But I think
so
Taysom
we're just
Hill,
gonna act like Jacoby Brissett doesn't exist anymore. This is disrespectful.
Yeah, we're on Jameis watch. We've seen Jacoby Brissett.
You know what?
Garrick. He's good enough to get you to 7-9.
Garrick, thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to stick with the Colts there, as you've just said, with Jacoby, because if you run a read option system with Jonathan Taylor and how he ended off the season with Jacoby Brissett being a dual threat quarterback, I think that might be the move if you don't want to get a new quarterback for Indy. And with the free agent class this year, throw all your money at Allen Robinson, and you got a lineup out there with T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr., and Allen Robinson there with a dual threat quarterback and a great running back and that amazing defense, that's the quarterback destination that you want.
Yeah, not to mention the best O-line in football.
Yeah.
Kyle Trask is licking his chops right now.
Carson Wentz, his old coordinator, and Frank Reich, the guy that engineered his MVP season. Be on the lookout for that, people.
All right. Yep. That's enough of our sob retirement talk. Let's get into the real deal now. The Buccaneers and the Packers. It's going to be another close one here as I update the odds here with this Tampa and Green Bay game. The Packers being the number 1 seed, the Bucs coming in here being the number 5 seed. So who do we got in this one? +3 for Tampa.
I'm gonna let Garrett go first because this is a game I've been thinking about way too much, and I still can't decide who I think is gonna win.
Yeah.
I'm not the best when it comes to the NFL, but it's time for amateur hour to shine right now. You know I can't bet against Tom Brady, Brandon. I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
He just won so gosh darn much, to quote Philip Rivers.
But you are.
No, I'm not. Because
okay.
I think their defense really showed out last week. I'm talking about the Bucs now. Just their secondary was, forcing some turnovers. I think even guys like Levante David were trying to get after it, obviously. So I think in that sense, their defense looks better to me, I would say, than the Packers, because I know they were a team, at least to start the year, that they had a pretty solid defense. And their O-line isn't that bad either. And I feel like they give Brady a lot of options. And again, I always talk about it, but their offense is super potent. It might just be a bunch of names some days. Some days they look like they don't have it, but he just has so many options to work with. So I think in that sense, I can't bet against them, even though I think Rodgers had the MVP year, but I don't know if he can cap off that year, just knowing what he's done in the past and possible Super Bowl years that he's had.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down. When it's two older quarterbacks, it's going to come down to which team could get pressure on the old quarterback. And we saw in that was it week 5, week 6 when the Bucs just laid an absolute smackdown on the Green Bay Packers. I think that was Aaron Rodgers was pressured the most in that game than the whole entire season. And without David Bakhtiari, who's an all-pro left tackle for this game, I think I'm going to have to side with Garrett here. I think the Tampa Bay defense can get to him. Brady, we know he's not afraid to play in the snow after all those years in New England. I think him and that offense finally puts together a good game in the playoffs. And I can't believe we're saying this, but Tom Brady is going to be going to the Super Bowl with a brand new team in his first year.
Yeah. Well, guys, I rode the Green Bay Packers last week, and that surprised a lot of fans. With Aaron Rodgers doing what he did, having an MVP type of season, and the Packers came out strong. They took care of their job. It was an easy victory for them in the Rams last week. So, and you got Tampa Bay, and solid win over New Orleans, came down to the wire. Their defense showed up, that late key interception there. And this one, I agree with Darren in that, it's a hard choice. It's absolute hard choice. You got 2 generational quarterbacks. But at the end of the day, and this was the reason why I chose Tampa Bay last week, not because of Tom Brady, but because of the weapons that they have. We talk about the receivers again. AB, Godwin, Mike Evans. You got Rob Gronkowski. The running game there with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. It's just too much offense, too much threats, too many threats. So I'm going to have to take Tom Brady and the Bucs in this one as well. So we got our first complete sweep. We are all in agreement that Tom Brady is headed to another Super Bowl there, and a Super Bowl down in his own stadium there in Tampa Bay. Definitely a home field advantage there, right, Garrett? Because they're hosting it there, and you can actually have fans at the Super Bowl and in Tampa.
Yeah, facts. I just wanted to point out one fun fact for anybody who's a big Netflix head also. John Franklin III from the first season of Last Chance U is also on this team as a wide receiver. So you know they're going to give him that storybook ending. If the refs weren't already gunning for Tom Brady this year, you know they're gunning for John Franklin III just for the storyline. So keep your third eye open. That's all I'm saying.
Hey man, Antonio Brown might be out this week, so it's one turned ankle from Scotty Miller away from being the storybook ending Garrick's talking about.
Yeah. Guys, so a fun fact that I have for here, no team has ever played in their own stadium for the Super Bowl, but 6 teams have qualified to make the conference championships. That includes the Dolphins in 94 and 98, the 2016 Houston Texans, 2017 Minnesota Vikings, and now the 2020 Tampa Bay Bucks. So if this happens, it'll be huge for them. And this is their first NFC Championship appearance since the 2002 Super Bowl win.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Tampa Bay.
I mean, that'd just be. It seems like Tom Brady's the last guy though that really needs another
And
Super Bowl.
you presented this question, Garrick. I think it was you or Darren. But if Tom Brady has 2 more years, I think, left on his contract after this, but if he goes out with a Super Bowl, should he just hang it up, end it like Peyton Manning did?
I think he
I don't
should.
think he's ever gonna hang. What did he say? 45. He's 43 right now. I think he's gonna try to go the Drew Brees route until he's absolutely washed. He's gonna keep on playing.
I feel like he should, honestly, because I feel like if he does end up winning the bowl, it's just like who's gonna catch you for the next 30 years, right? At least.
Yeah.
Because the guy I'm looking at to do it right now is obviously Mahomes, and I feel like that's the biggest threat to me. But we know with the contract he just signed, it's going to be hard for them to retain a lot of those really good players they also have, just because it's going to be so lucrative in future years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really don't know. I think he should just retire if he wins.
Yeah, I'm with Garrick here. He should go out that Peyton Manning route, but knowing Tom Brady and his competitiveness, he's obviously going to keep on playing until that arm falls out like Breeze, as you said, Darren. Over now to the AFC side and our last pick of the week, Kansas City and Buffalo to take on Tampa Bay in their home stadium at Raymond James. So, we know the issue here. Patrick Mahomes, not sure if he's going to be cleared to play in this game. He has to pass the concussion test for him to be eligible. So, with or without Mahomes, do you like Kansas City going to their back-to-back Super Bowls appearances?
I mean, in my opinion, I think Mahomes is going to have to be in a coma for him not to play this game. We know how shady the NFL is with their concussion protocol, and you got the best player in the whole NFL. You're not going to mess that up.
Cleveland should have been
He's
in
this game. Yeah, if it wasn't for Chad Henne coming in and absolutely saving the day on that 4th down.
Or that helmet-to-helmet contact. That was obvious there.
Mm-hmm. But getting back to this game, I'm going to have to take Kansas City. I like Buffalo's story. Josh Allen, he's definitely surprised me, but you're kidding me, right? I'm not picking against the 15-1 Chiefs led by the best player in the NFL.
Yeah, I think obviously the whole thing is riding on whether or not Mahomes comes back. I do want to give out a shout out to Bills fans because they raised a lot of money for Lamar Jackson's some of his charities and foundations. And I thought that was really cool. Stephon Diggs, had some really good words to say about Josh Allen too. So I'm warming up to him just a tad, but I hope the Chiefs have Mahomes because I feel like we're really going to lose out on a great game if they don't. If they have Chad Henne, I don't think they beat the Bills. I think the Bills are just too good defensively, obviously. Their secondary. I always like to mention, I think the secondaries are extremely important, especially for top level teams, because you have to be able to stop those star receivers. And there's not many that you can stop like Tyreek Hill. So if they're going to have anybody and if they're going to have anybody stop him, anybody throwing to him, you want obviously a worse option than Mahomes. And Chad Henne doesn't have that ability where he can just throw it on top of everyone or over anyone. So I think that's really going to be the big thing, obviously. But if Mahomes is there, I think they win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can I add a betting
So
perspective from this game?
yeah, go for it.
I think my play for this game is I just looked up the weather in Kansas City. It's going to be raining on Sunday. We got an over under of 54. I think a lot of people are betting the over on that, but I think the under is the great play this week. We know both teams love to throw the ball, and a slick ball in the rain. I think it's going to be tough to move the ball for both teams, and I think that over is kind of getting padded just because it's too high-powered offense. But I really like the under for this game if it's raining.
Yeah. Okay. Patrick Mahomes has played one game versus this Buffalo team, and that came, I think, yeah, this year, week 6. 21 for 26, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks against Buffalo's. It was a 26-17 win. And we look at the side of Josh Allen in that game for the Buffalo Bills and his numbers against Kansas City: 14 for 27, 122, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So it's going to come down to the quarterback play, in my opinion. Who's going to make the most plays? Who's going to rush out in the pocket, escape those hits? And as Chris Berman liked to say,
We tried out this new Bills jersey last week, and boy, was it magic. A reminder, no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
so
And
I'm
the
going to have
squad.
to take the Buffalo Bills. I've been on the bandwagon this whole season for Buffalo. I love the connection of Allen to Diggs, as I've mentioned. I'm a huge fan of those two, especially Stephon Diggs. And remember when we had those NFL discussions earlier in the year after week 2, if Josh Allen is going to be that MVP contender, and how he stepped up his game to another level this year after Darren admittedly said that he doubted Josh Allen and that he's come up with a resurgence this year. It's a storybook ending that's bound to happen. And I got to take Buffalo over Kansas City. With or without Mahomes, Buffalo is on a hot streak. You're hot at the right time. You're going to the Super Bowl against Tom Brady, Josh Allen.
What an ending what a season that would be for Buffalo if they were able to go to the Super Bowl. Too bad you got the
And
Terminator and Patrick Mahomes on the other sideline, just waiting to crush that
Patrick
dream.
Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, he's a great quarterback. He's just not going to get it done. He's going to have that pressure on him. I think the Buffalo Bills, it's their time, because in the 90s, for you Bills fans, those 4 straight Super Bowls, and y'all losing all of those, going 0-4. It's redemption time. It's 2021. 2021 is the redemption year. We got a new president in the house. We got cures to coronavirus. Everything's looking up. The Buffalo Bills are looking up. I sound like a preacher right now for you Buffalo fans, but it's time. It's time for Buffalo to get a Super Bowl win. We saw long playoff streaks ending. We saw the Tampa Bay Lightning winning it. We saw the Dodgers winning it. We saw the Lakers winning it. And we haven't seen Tampa Bay win it since 2002. But if the Buffalo Bills make it, Buffalo celebrate, because I think you're taking it all, even over Tom Brady.
Yeah, I like that point you made at the end, Brandon, because I was just about to say that. I think whoever wins this game is winning the Super Bowl, because I think these are the 2 best teams left in the playoffs, Buffalo and Kansas City.
I say that now, but it pains me as a fan, because I love Tom Brady, being from my city, being born and raised there, and I always root for him every single year he's in the Super Bowl. And when he takes on Josh Allen in Buffalo, who I love, it's going to be hard. I wish the game could just end in a tie, but maybe we get another exciting Super Bowl matchup where it goes to overtime.
Yeah, I think that's the wrong football. But basically what I just heard you say is 2021 is just the year that doesn't make sense also. So we're just gonna have something that doesn't make sense happen at the end. So congratulations to the Bills Mafia. I guess we'll hang up the banners now since we're already at it.
Garrick
and
with
Bills
a strong reverse jinx. Garrick
and
with
the
a
Bills
strong
fans,
reverse jinx.
the Bills fans are crazy. You see them jumping off and jumping on tables like they're at a frat and sorority parties. So they're my type of people. And you know what, guys? Once the virus ends, I think we got to take a trip up to Buffalo next year and check out a Bills game.
You might be the
Buffalo
only
Wild
tourist
Wings?
in the whole entire city of Buffalo. I'm down for the wings though.
Yeah. All right, guys. This has been another great episode. Season 2, episode 3. I think we've had our best 3 episodes ever. So you listeners are going to check out the start of season 2 because we're only going uphill. Our followers are up. Our viewership is up. We're going international. It's big things this year. Shout out to our social media gurus again. Garrett Garcia for handling our Instagram, and for Darren Jung starting our YouTube channel, and for me just trying to chip in whenever I can with both of those platforms. And we just want to thank our viewers every single week. Follow us on Shooters Only Podcast on Instagram. Follow us on Shooters Only Podcast on YouTube. And, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Podcasts. I say that every single week, but as we do every single week, our bold take of the week.
Patrick Mahomes isn't going to play the first half of the game. They're going to drum it up. He's going to be in the bathroom. He's going to be in concussion protocol. Darrell Williams is going to go for 150 yards.
What in the
That first half.
WWE is this?
He had 137 on 13 carries. I don't want to hear it. And then Patrick Mahomes is going to come out and seal the game somehow on the second half.
All right. I don't know if this is a bold take, but I think before our next episode, next Wednesday, Deshaun Watson will be a New York Jet. And pair him up with Robert Saleh, and all of a sudden the Jets are exciting again.
Okay. I like that. I really like that. I love that take. Throw in Richard Sherman. Why don't we add that? Richard Sherman's going to be a Jet next week, too.
The Jets are the dark
just
horse
throwing
Super
him
Bowl
away.
contender for next year. Get Allen
Nothing makes
Robinson over
sense
there,
anymore.
you got a squad.
Well, guys, Josh Allen, his career high in rushing yards was 135, and that was back taking on the Miami Dolphins, a 21-17 win. That's probably not this year. I think that might have been last year. But the point I'm trying to say here is Josh Allen, he's the best rusher for this Buffalo Bills team. And I said the quarterback has to make some plays. And when we take a look at this season and his totals for rushing yards in a single game, his season high, has been 61 this year. I'm going to go that Josh Allen rushes for 70 yards in this playoff game and helps them secure that win because they have no run game, as I mentioned. And it's going to be Josh Allen's feet to do that job. So I'm taking Josh Allen for 70 yards. Throw it up for a dub for y'all Buffalo fans there. Rejoice because the Buffalo Bills are going to the Super Bowl. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Shooters Only Podcast. No matter the sport, we give you the freshest and hottest takes and facts to back up our opinions. Subscribe, guys. Thanks for listening.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Shooters Only Pod, and stick with more to come down the line. Make sure to subscribe and follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.